had ever known that he'd had a gun barrel clenched between his teeth and his finger pressed against the trigger on prom night. In the months that followed, thinking about how close he'd come to ending it all had frightened him, and he'd found a persistent heaviness lurking on the edge of his thoughts. Eventually, he'd started taking meds to quiet the depression and keep those thoughts of irreversible solutions away, but still, over the years, it had stolen one marriage, 2 jobs, and any number of friends from him. But not since that night in high school 2 decades earlier had the thought come to him as overpoweringly as it did today. Kill yourself, Corey. Take your life. This is something you can do right now. This very day. 5:21 a.m. He found his way to the kitchen, put on some coffee just like he did every day, drew a hand across his head to calm his tangled mop of slightly graying hair, and ate 2 donuts and an apple whose skin was beginning to wrinkle. His thoughts chased each other around in an ever-shrinking circle. I wonder what it would be like to be dead, to finally be free of all the hardships and struggles and disappointments of life. Then another series of thoughts. What disappointments, Corey? Your life is not that bad. Things at the law firm were good. His health was fine. He hadn't been diagnosed with cancer or received any other shattering news. But still, for some reason, he found his eyes drifting around the kitchen until they landed on the wooden knife block beside the microwave on the countertop. Yes, he realized that he really did want to commit suicide, or self-murder, as it used to be so aptly called. Self-murder. It was true that 2 weeks ago he'd broken off a relationship with a woman whom he'd been seeing for 8 months. Maybe that was causing this. Maybe some form of repressed anger or undealt with loss was to blame. But he'd realized he wasn't in love with her anymore, and when he told her, he'd found that apparently the feeling was mutual. He'd dealt pretty well with the breakup, and as far as he knew, his ex-girlfriend was doing all right too. However, now as he thought of it all again, it was as if part of his mind was trying to use that breakup as a justification for letting him think the final dark things he was considering. You can't make a relationship work, Corey. It's because of who you are. You can't change who you are. 5:29 a.m. He eyed that alluring block of knives. They were certainly sharp enough. He knew this because he'd nearly cut his finger to the bone last month while slicing a tomato for his salad. Yes, a knife was definitely a possibility. Wrists, neck, inside of his upper arm. He didn't know what that artery in the arm was called, but it was an important one, he knew that. One that was nearly impossible to quell the bleeding of once it was slit. Maybe. Stop it, Corey. His gaze traveled toward the sink. There was bleach below it. He guessed that if he swallowed a cupful of that, it would burn through his tongue, his throat, his stomach, kill him from the inside out. A horrible way to die, to be murdered by yourself. But still, he went to the sink, pulled out the bottle, and read the warning. Harmful or fatal if swallowed. Call a physician or poison control center immediately. Do not induce vomiting. Seek advanced medical care at once. Yes, a good long guzzle of that would do it. What are you even doing here, Corey? This train of thought, you can't let yourself... But think of it, though. No more breakups or pain. No more heartache or questions or fear. Not ever again. He dialed off the cap to the bleach, but as he brought the bottle to his mouth, the sharp, acrid smell drew him up short. He couldn't imagine that liquid inside of him, that chemical killing him in a way he wouldn't wish on his worst enemy. But you don't have any enemies, Corey. You don't. You need to get a hold of yourself here.